Hi, welcome back to another Econ Podcast with Mr. Hagan. On this Econ Podcast, we're going to continue to talk about investing. Please remember that this video is not designed to give investment advice. Its purpose is educational only. This videos and other videos in this playlist are designed to teach about different theories of investing. If you want investment advice, please see a professional. All right, so we've been talking about on some recent videos, we've been talking about random walk and how to keep fees and taxes low. And I want to continue on that idea here on this video and then kind of sum up the random walk theory of investing. So I want to return to this idea of the after tax total return and what that means for our final formula. So we're going to do an example problem here where we have $100,000 to invest for 30 years. So the $100,000 investment for 30 years, we're going to assume that you get a 10% rate of return per year. That's going to be the R. And we're also going to assume that your dividends and capital gains tax rate is going to be 15% and that the load charge will be 5%. Okay, so those are going to be all of our assumptions. So let's start up here. And first of all, calculate the after-tax total return. So if the total return is 10% per year, that's this. If the total return is 10%, remember this. This is a little confusing. TR is total return, and that is without taxes. That is your R. Okay, that's what's going to go into the formula right here for R. Okay, that's going to be, so these two things mean the same thing. I'm using them interchangeably. R, your rate of return, TR, your total return. They mean the same thing. So that's your 10% per year right here. So I'm going to take that total return. I'm going to say that's 10%. Okay. What I'm trying to do is calculate what is the after-tax total return if you have to pay taxes. So the total return is 10% without taxes, but you face a capital gains rate of 15%. So then we got to do 1 minus 0.15. And so that means that we are going to get to keep 10% of the 10% that we earn. We're going to get to keep 85% of that, or 0.85. That's what we're going to get to keep. Okay, that's 1 minus our tax rate. The government's going to take 15%. We're going to keep 85% of our 10% return. So our after-tax total return is going to be only 8.5%. Okay, it's going to be 8.5%. So when we use our formula, P times 1 plus R to the T, it's actually going to be P times 1.085. That's your after-tax total return raised to the number of years. Okay, now let's go apply that down here. So on the left-hand side, this is going to be an example where we pay taxes. So we're going to have to deal with the after-tax total return. And we're going to pay a load charge of 5%. So that's going to go right here. That's going to be my load. All right. So let's see what the load and taxes are going to do to the amount of money that I have at the end of this 30 years. So this is going to be a little confusing, but here's my formula. So it's going to be 1 minus the load. So that's going to be 1 minus 0.05 because my load was 5%. Times 100,000, that's my principal. Okay, so times 100,000, that's my principal right here. Times 1.085 raised to the 30th power. Here's my 1.085 because I'm getting the after-tax total return because I got to pay 15% to the government, and then that's going to be invested for 30 years. So let's do this step by step. This 1 minus 0.05, so that's going to be 0.95. So I'm going to get to keep 95%. I'm going to get to invest 95% of my 100,000. Okay, 95% of that actually gets invested. The rest of the other 5% is going to go to the broker as a fee, a sales charge, times 1.085 raised to the 30th. Raised to the 30th power. Okay, so 0.95 times 100,000, that means $95,000 is going to actually get invested times 1.085. I only am getting an 8.5% rate of return per year because the rest of it's going to pay taxes, raised to the 30th power. Okay, so let's do that calculation. So I invested 100,000. I invested 100,000, but only 95,000 of that actually got invested. So I'm going to take 1.085. I'm actually doing the calculation right now. So I'm going to do 1.085 raised to the 30th power times 95,000. I'm going to end up with, at the end of 30 years, when I take this money out, I'm going to have $98,000. Let me say that all again. That was said very poorly. So I'm going to have $1,098,033. Okay, that's the amount of money that I'm going to have after the load and after paying the taxes. That's the amount of money that I'm actually going to have and keep at the end if I pay a load and if I pay taxes and therefore get the after-tax total return. Okay, now let's do the mathematically much easier concept where what if I could not pay a load and avoid paying taxes? Okay, let's see how big of a difference that would make. So now I'm going to get to invest. My P is going to be the full $100,000 because I don't have to pay a load. So the full $100,000 is going to get invested times 1.1. Why is that? Because I'm going to get the full total return, the full R, the full 10% per year. That's what I'm going to earn because I'm not paying taxes. Government's not taking any taxes out each year. So the full 10% is going to get reinvested every single year. So I'm going to earn a 10% rate of return instead of an after-tax total return of 8.5%. I'm going to get the full 10% for 30 years. Okay, that's it. And then I just do the calculation, which I'm going to do right now, is 1.1 raised to the 30th times the 100,000, all of it that gets invested. And so I'm going to end up with 1,744,000, $1,744,940. $940. So that's a lot more money, right? I end up with a lot more money at the end if I can avoid paying loads and I can avoid paying taxes. Okay, that's almost a $700,000 difference at the end in terms of the amount of money I have just from getting rid of the load and getting rid of the taxes. Now, what's the real world look like? Well, in the real world, we can get rid of this load. There are no load companies, so you can make that go away. You can't make taxes go away. Okay, you're going to have to pay these taxes at some point. But what you can do is you can delay paying those taxes to the future so that your money grows more quickly and that then you really will have more money at the end. And we will talk about that on another set of videos. That's going to be dealing with retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, all those kind of different things will allow you to delay paying your taxes. Okay? And that'll allow you to accumulate more money. So you can't get rid of this entirely, but you can avoid paying it at least for a while. And we'll talk about how that works a little bit later. Okay, let's look at a summary then. Let's go look at a summary of the random walk position. So the summary of the random walk, they say this. Number one, eliminate specific stock risk by diversifying. Okay, that's the first thing. Eliminate specific stock risk by diversifying. Number two, and by the way, that can be eliminated. Specific stock risk, you can get rid of it. Okay. Number two, you can't get rid of it, but you can reduce market risk by holding for the long run. Number three, keep expenses low. We just talked about this. Keep your broker fee and load fees low and try to keep your tax bill low. Okay? Those are the focuses. So what does this mean in practice? What's it mean in practice for these guys? In practice, this simply means this. One, buy something like a broad index, like the total stock market index fund. Okay, it doesn't have to be that. Some of these mutual fund companies will also sell what are global index funds, things like that. So, you choose what index fund. I'm just giving this one as an example. There's a very broad index fund. You could buy the total stock market index fund, hold it for 30 years or more, and invest with a no load, low cost mutual fund company. Okay? Invest with a no load, low cost mutual fund company. And that would be it. This is kind of these are the simple rules for the random walk. And by the way, the first company that did this was, other companies have since followed in many ways. But this concept of this random walk probably started with Vanguard in 1976, something along that line, in the 1970s, when John Bogle created the first index mutual fund called the S&P 500. Okay, but so Vanguard was probably the first one to try to do this. Vanguard still does a lot of this, but there's a lot of other companies out there that now do it as well and try to compete with Vanguard by offering this very, very low cost type of investing. So let me just say this all one more time. Random walk theory. Don't try to beat the market. Okay. Don't try to pick the right stocks. Don't do the castle in the air stuff. Don't do the firm foundation stuff. Okay. Buy the total stock market index, hold it for 30 years in a no load, low cost mutual fund company, and then you will do just fine. That is the basic summary of the random walk investors. That's what they believe in. All right. This has been Mr. Hagan on another Econ podcast. Thanks for joining me. And we'll see you on the next Econ podcast.